So today I wanted to try and take a quick look at the 1989 film Stepfather 2, also known as Stepfather 2 Make Room for Daddy, which I think is just a very odd film title choice. It sounds more like a porno, to tell the truth. Yeah, that one's just too easy. So apparently the film was originally intended to have been a direct-to-video release, and upon the screen test, I believe the producers felt that the film was strong enough to release this as a theatrical feature. It did have a limited release. This is actually the last time we see Terry Quinn starring as the lead. In this feature, he pretty much just picks up where the last one left off. We have sort of a brief overview of the last film, and we realize he's been committed to an asylum. He's somewhat befriended his psychiatrist, which was not very clever on his part, because that also winds up becoming the way in which he escapes, is pretty much just murders his psychiatrist, beats the prison guard, takes the uniform and sneaks out. It's very interesting to me because it definitely dates the film. I honestly completely forgot about this, but there's a scene where he's the stepfather character. There's a scene where the stepfather character is looking through dating videotapes looking for the next Mrs. Right. I honestly forgot that was a thing. It's just amusing because nowadays everything is online, but I'm getting off track. So in this film, Terry O'Quinn, who was Jerry Blake in the last name, has now changed his name to Gene Clifford and has pretty much impersonated the shrink that he killed. It isn't long before he falls for Carol Grayland, who was actually the real estate person who leased his current home to him, which ironically happens to be the job he had in the original film. He was a real estate agent. Carol is played by Meg Foster. I think she was an excellent choice for the film, although I do believe at one point in time Kay Lentz was also in the running to be considered for the role as well. I honestly can't picture it with anyone other than Meg Foster. Maybe it's just I've just gotten used to her, but I think she plays the role extremely well. She's definitely a very elegant, very beautiful woman. She is slightly soft-spoken but has somewhat of a sultry voice, which is just appealing in general. She just is a very soothing person. I also think she's a great contrast for Gene, who obviously happens to be the man that she later becomes engaged to, but just the fact that he's so false modest, just very family values, but just very violent at his core. I think they're just very great opposing forces. So we also have Jonathan Brandis playing Todd Grayland, who is obviously playing the role of Meg Foster's son. Definitely a very interesting role. I honestly completely forgot he was in this. Brandis also does an excellent job in my opinion. He's definitely not one of those annoying child type characters, which is the rebellious child of divorce. The Todd character is a lot more easygoing, and I suppose it's just the fact that he's either male or just younger, which is why he adapted a lot more easily to Gene. Playing Meg Foster's best friend, we have Carolyn Williams, who to me has always been more standout for her role as Stretch in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. It honestly kind of took me a while to pick her up, but yeah, I think that was also a very well played role. And director Jeff Burr himself has kind of created a niche for himself as being known as the director who is pretty much just known for directing sequels. He did the sequel for Stepfather 2, he did TCM 3, he did Puppet Master 4 and 5, and he also directed Pumpkinhead 2. So I don't really know if that's something he set off to do or if it's just kind of something he fell into. So in this film, as I did say, Gene, or the previously known Jerry Blake, has posed as a family counselor. He's a bit doofy, but tries to do the best he can, even though he's in a field he knows absolutely nothing about. So he eventually does woo Carol into taking an interest in him. Unfortunately, her husband, who had run off a year prior with his mistress, suddenly comes back, wants another chance, so obviously it's not too long before he's taken back out of the picture again. Maddie, who was played by Carolyn Williams, does become suspicious of Gene and starts kind of digging into his past, which isn't too difficult because she works for the post office and she happens to intercept a class reunion letter which was sent to him via a photo that had been included in with the letter. she actually comes to discover that the real Jean was African American and not Caucasian, so I'd say that's pretty much a dead giveaway. It isn't too long before she's taken out as well, and at Jean's insistence, he and Carol still do go through with the wedding plans. It's actually as she's getting dressed in her room that she puts two and two together. Maddie's family or parents had sent over a bottle of wine, which also happened to be the same bottle that Jean showed up with one evening. Her son also happens to whistle the tune Camptown Races, which had been heard at the evening in which Maddie had been murdered. Her son states that Jean had taught him the song, so she pretty much puts two and two together, and he pretty much just tries to kill her in the church, which is kind of ironic, I guess. But definitely very amusing ending sequence. She and her son just kind of walk out, I guess, into the ceremony area. Here Comes the Bride starts playing. Ironically, they're both covered in blood because they've just gotten into a tussle with Jean, and supposedly he's defeated for this round. So initially, director Jeff Burr was displeased with what the studio had decided because they felt the film was not gory enough. The original director refused to shoot new scenes, so they hired a new director to include the scenes. Burr himself had been stated to have complained at the time that the scenes were tacky and unnecessary, and supposedly lead actor Terry Quinn was also not willing to participate in the scenes, but obviously those scenes were reshot. I'm assuming the majority of those scenes that were reshot happened to have been the ending sequence, which happened in the church. In 2003, the film was released to DVD by Miramax Films, and I believe in Canada by Alliance Atlantis. In 2009, Stepfather 2 was re-released onto DVD in order to coincide with the remake of Stepfather, which I believe was released by Screen Gem. So this version of the DVD included the original special features as well as a making of documentary of the film. So fairly clever on their part. I honestly do not know if that release is still available. That is pretty much all I have for you guys today. I will talk to you later.